What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Three Wide Podcast. And a little bit of a different video today where I'm going to be ranking the 2023 driver lineup, in my opinion. And this is obviously preseason predictions on where I think they'll finish. So, just a little different type of video. I know you guys might be a little bit bored of the podcast season, especially now that Formula One is done. I thought this would be a good way to get some insight into what I believe will be the 2023 Formula One championship standings in some order. And, my other friends on this podcast, Bryan and Brandon, will probably do the same thing. So, yeah, I have 5 categories here. The first being championship material. Obviously speaks for itself. Has that special something, decent, and then how are you here, meaning like how are you in Formula One? And this is all going to be ranked on driver abilities. Kind of disregarding like the car that they've driven or I expect them to drive. This is all based on like what I believe to be as a driver. So let's just get right into it. We have here George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. I think it's pretty safe to say that these two are both championship material. I'm kind of excited to see what I'm going to see from Mercedes. We saw a lot of improvement from Mercedes in the last part of the season, Brazil being the most improved race in my opinion, where obviously George Russell won and Hamilton finished P2, the first and only P2 Mercedes got all year. P1 and 2 they got all year. Obviously 2022, they had a really rough season for the majority of it. However, they found a lot of pace in the car in the later parts of the season, Mexico, USA, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. Now, my question is, will George and Lewis race a lot next year, as we all presume Mercedes will be back to a certain extent next year, right? We saw them race a little bit in Brazil. I thought for a second Mercedes might want to give Lewis Hamilton the win just to keep his record going or whatever. So I wasn't completely shocked, but I was a little bit shocked to see that Mercedes let George keep his win. But I was very happy Mercedes did that because he definitely did deserve it. I'm just wondering now if we're going to see more racing between the two of them and some more fiery moments between the two of them, because both of these guys are tremendous competitors and all they want to do is win. And, there's only one top spot. So we're going to see Mercedes' strategy for that next year. But, yeah, obviously they're both championship contender drivers, and I believe Mercedes will give them the car for them to both compete for the world championship. Next, we have Oscar Piastri. I think it's only fair to say we put him in decent. This could mean he goes even up to here or here, but he hasn't driven a Formula One race a lap ever. He has won Formula 3 and Formula 2, so I don't feel like I should put him here. The word around Piastri is something like he's a golden boy because of all his victories that he's had in his Formula 1, his racing careers. Obviously, over the summer, we all know he dipped Alpine, basically had a seat at Alpine waiting for him, and he dipped them to go join McLaren, showing that he's valued by a bunch of teams in Formula One, and I'm sure a lot of teams would have loved to sign him. I think it's only right to say we put him in decent for now because we don't really know anything about his racecraft in a Formula One car, but we could use what we're seeing, what other people are saying, and we could use what we have seen in the past to kind of gauge where we expect Piastri will be, and I think he's a decent driver, so I'm going to put him there for now. Charles Leclerc is another easy one, and Vettel, to be honest, they're both championship quality drivers. I'll start with Leclerc. Had a pretty rough season in 2022 in my eyes, due to the expectation that this was supposed to be the man to rival Max Verstappen for the championship. And in the early parts of the season, he was definitely doing that, winning the first 2 out of 3 races, and, could have won Jeddah. It was a really good race between Max and Charles. Definitely had the pace to win a lot more races than he should have. However, due to many Ferrari strategy blunders, Monaco being the main one in my eyes, but also Charles Leclerc blunders like Imola, for example, where he sent it on the chicane, and even in France, where he lost the car at the big hairpin, I believe turn 12. I don't remember the track number. I think the corner is called the Castellet. I forget. But apart from the errors and the strategy blunders, Charles Leclerc is supposed to be the man to rival Max, and he definitely was that man. However, again, the blunders cost him. Now, does Charles Leclerc have the talent to win the championship? Most definitely. Can he compete high and race at a high level on a consistent manner. We've yet to see that from him. Again, there's been many blunders by him and Ferrari in the past, and now maybe with the new team principal signing, the strategic blunders might come to an end. But we don't know about Charles Leclerc. I mean, hopefully he could, get rid of those silly mistakes in the car and be more a consistent driver. I mean, we said the same thing about Max Verstappen not too many years ago. Max Verstappen would often have that silly mistake in him. Baku, for example, when he crashed into Ricardo. Even in, I think Monaco one time, he crashed the car pushing too hard. Even in Hungary this year, he's pushed way too hard, spun out the car, and was still able to win. But, Max used to have that silly mistake in him, but he eliminated those silly mistakes, and now he's a very consistent top driver. Charles Leclerc is a top driver for sure, but will he be able to eliminate the mistakes next year to allow him to compete with the likes of a Lewis Hamilton, a George Russell, and a Max Verstappen? We'll find out. Lance Stroll's next. I'm gonna put him in decent. I wouldn't be upset if you guys put him in. If you guys say he should be in here, I believe Lance Stroll's a decent driver and it showed a lot of promising signs. Baku in 2018 or 2017 was an example when he finished P3. He had a couple P4, I think a couple P5 results this year, especially towards the end of the year. Aston Martin as a whole got their shit together and really started to perform as a car. And Stroll was pretty decent. However, he did have the odd moment of blasphemy running off his teammate Seb Vettel in Brazil, and obviously that big crash with Alonso in America. Sort of like Leclerc. I mean, not to the extent of Leclerc, because Stroll is nowhere the driver for Leclerc. Stroll has a lot of silly mistakes in him, but ones that I feel like they're kind of easy to eliminate if he just relaxes and composes himself and drives for himself and tries to try to drive without the pressure of your dad loading the team you drive. Maybe he'll produce some better results, but I believe Lance Stroll is a good driver. I think with the appointment of Fernando Alonso at Aston Martin, they clearly have something up their sleeve. I think they're going to show a lot of improvement this upcoming year. And I think Lance Stroll is also going to show a lot of improvement, maybe contending for like a P6, P7 on the World Drivers' Championship. So we'll see what happens with that. Nicholas Latifi, no word said. He is clearly the best driver. Oh, he's not on the grid anymore. He's too good to be in Formula One, in my opinion. If you guys don't think Nicholas Latifi is a championship material driver, you guys have either no knowledge of Formula One and are clearly struggling in life. So, no questions asked. Latifi is championship material. Valtteri Bottas, definitely deserving of special something. Could even put him here, but for now I'm going to put him here. I wouldn't be mad with you guys putting him in championship material driving. I'm just going to put him in that special something. Valtteri Bottas has been very, very good for time. Even from his days at Williams with Felipe Massa as his teammate, he was very, very good. To now his days, obviously, in Alfa Romeo, where he would get that car into Q3, where you think the best they could probably do is P12 and out of Q2. He's got that car into points finishes many, many times. And I believe this is a great driver. We saw in his days partnering this man in the Mercedes, how good he was and how good of a teammate he was. Valtteri Bottas is one of the best drivers on the grid. Definitely has that special something. And I definitely wouldn't be mad with putting him in championship material. But for me, he's kind of teetering between the two. We didn't really get to see the absolute best of Valtteri Bottas because his teammate was Lewis Hamilton. Fair to him. But Valtteri Bottas is definitely one of the best drivers in Formula One, in my opinion. Next, we have K-Mag. Definitely going to put him in decent. By the way, these are in no order. I'm not trying to say George Russell's more great than Hamilton. This is, by category. I think K-Mag's a decent driver. He showed this year a pole position at Brazil. I think he got P8 in the sprint. Had a lot of good moments, especially early on for Haas, scoring some really good points. The car as a whole fell off towards the end of the year. But I believe it was a pretty good car to start and got a lot of points, and this man was the main man behind it. Also give him credit for, turning up rather late on the scene. Nikita Mazepin was fired pretty late into the F1 offseason, and he was called up. And Magnussen was called up pretty late into F1 offseason as well, right before the F1 season started and F1 testing started. So for him to quickly adapt to a new Haas and new F1 car in general, and really get acclimatized to the new regulation changes and the new car, he's done a very good job, and he's definitely one of the better drivers in Formula One. Hopefully Haas, my my native car, because I'm from America. Hopefully they could improve pace-wise, and we could see a more consistent Kevin Magnussen points finishes. But until then, I'm still going to realize Kevin Magnussen is a very decent driver in Formula 1. Max Verstappen next. I think there's no explanation. He was a top driver in Formula 1 this year. Top 2 in the season before with Hamilton right there. He has absolutely run away in that Red Bull this year. There was nobody in a vicinity of him. He was amazing this year. Like him or hate him, Max Verstappen is an absolutely insane driver. One that knows his limits and knows when to push, when not to push. But when he doesn't push, he still keeps his pace really high. His racecraft is a lot better. Sometimes it could be a little bit stupid and maybe, not back out of a move when he should. But that's just Max Verstappen. He's a great driver, very aggressive at points when he needs to be. A great winner, a great competitor, and it's good to see this man winning in Formula 1. Alonso, the same thing. Championship material driver by far. At the age, I believe, 41, or however old he is, he still got it. I believe if you put him in a Mercedes, McLaren, or Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull, he would definitely compete for the World Championship or maybe some wins. He probably wouldn't win it because there's a lot of talent in those cars already, but he would definitely compete for some race wins for sure. And I believe he deserves that chance, but there's again too much talent in Formula 1, particularly the younger side of Formula 1. However, in that Alpine, he's looked really, really good. A bunch of P5, P6 finishes throughout the year. Definitely bested his teammate Esteban Ocon on a lot of occasions. And yeah, making the move to Aston Martin to partner Lance Stroll. Maybe Aston Martin's got something up their sleeve in terms of their car pace. Fernando's obviously getting a pretty penny for that contract as well. And yeah, it's going to be a nice dynamic to see Fernando Alonso in a new car. Hopefully in an improved car to the Alpine. One that could maybe push for race wins at points. But again, it's Aston Martin. How much can we expect of a team that we don't really know much of? Besides the mid-table, but we'll see what happens. I'm not going to rate Grosjean because he's out of Formula 1. I will rate Mick because he's a Mercedes reserve driver. I'm going to put him in he does show days where he's very decent and definitely maybe even somewhere he's got that special something, but he's showed on a more consistent basis how he's just not quite ready for Formula 1. How many times has he crashed that Haas this season and last season? He's done it this year in, I believe, Hungary, was it? I believe Japan under safety car. I mean, he's crashed the car in Monaco really badly. I believe his crash bill was over 1/4 of Haas's expenditure for the car, which is kind of crazy. Mick is probably not ready for Formula 1 yet. However, a Mercedes reserve driver role could be really beneficial to him as he could develop as a Mercedes driver, get some A-class simulation experiences, some FP1 experiences. I don't think this is the end of the road for Mick in Formula 1, but right now it probably is. This is too much talent, and there's very little risk to take where there's so much talent. You have a driver like, Logan Sargent and other people like that coming through the ranks of Formula 2. It's kind of hard to stay with a driver who's, consistently crashing your car and, spending a lot of money on repairs. So I don't think this is the end of the road for Mick Schumacher. I'm happy that he's in a Mercedes role. Hopefully he can develop into a very, very good, consistent driver and find his way back into Formula 1. Guan Yu Zhou, I believe, is a decent, or Zhou Guan Yu, decent driver in my opinion. On his F1 debut, got points for Alfa Romeo, and after that, the car kind of fell off in my opinion. Wasn't as quick as we all thought in Bahrain. However, I think he's a very, very technical driver, very skilled, and one that I believe we will see contending for, the lower top half of the table, like P10, P9 in the championship in years to come, maybe even higher. I think he's a very skilled driver who definitely knows his limits. Very, very composed as well, I feel like. And yeah, he definitely has a high upside in Formula 1. Again, this is also his rookie year, so maybe in his sophomore year he'll be a lot better, and hopefully his car will be a lot better. I mean, when you have Valtteri Bottas as your teammate as well, you will learn a lot in Formula 1 and become a better driver. Yuki Tsunoda, I'm going to put an I hope he shows more signs of being a decent driver this year, because I believe this year is a very make or break year for Yuki. And here's why. Red Bull have a lot of drivers in their academy coming up, and just a lot of drivers in general coming up, like Liam Lawson, Teo Porcher, Drogovic, Colton Herta, and so many other names that, there's not a lot of room for young talent to decrease, to show less potential than they should. And Yuki Tsunoda, I think this year has kind of showed signs of brilliance at some points, and signs that maybe he should stay as an AlphaTauri driver. But also I think he showed signs of, maybe he isn't too serious about his role. We've seen in Drive to Survive, for example, how big he is. He's not that big on training as a driver and developing a physique an F1 driver should have. And this could all play a part in his role in AlphaTauri. The car wasn't that good this past year. A significant drop-off from a race-winning car in Monza. That was in 2021. Or was it 2020? 2020. I'm sorry. But yeah, I believe, AlphaTauri as a team fell off this past year. But Yuki Tsunoda has showed a lot of signs of mishaps, spinning out in places like France, for example, and he's complained very violently on the radio, which doesn't really help his cause. So I don't know what I'm going to see from Yuki Tsunoda this year. I think if he shows a lot less of what we want from Yuki, like if he shows signs of continued decrease in development or underdevelopment, I think he'll find his way out of Formula One this year. I don't think there's a very strong connection between him and Franz Tost and Helmut Marko, but we'll see what happens. I'm praying for Yuki Tsunoda. I'm hoping he could show signs of being a more decent driver, but for now I'm going to put him in A. Lando Norris, this is easy for me. I believe he's the best driver on the grid, just better than Nick Latifi. But yeah, I am a big fan of Lando Norris, and if you've been following the podcast, you will know that. He might not have the car to compete for several world championships. I'm hoping he does have this year, because McLaren have a star-studded lineup of an apparent golden boy in the Formula 1 paddock. That's won Formula 2 and Formula 3. And they have a driver that is definitely deserving of a Formula 1 win, and has consistently outperformed that McLaren car, race in, race out last season, besting his teammate on every single occasion, I'm pretty sure, except for like one. He is the best driver in Formula 1 in my eyes, and if you put him in any of these three cars, or Red Bull, Mercedes, or Ferrari, he will definitely be right there with Max Verstappen, challenging for the world championship. You mark my words. Just wait to give Lando to have a competitive car, capable of winning races, and watch him climb up the table and contend for race wins. I'm pretty sure you guys know how good he is, but I'm here to tell you he's the best in the grid. And if you disagree with me, let me know why in the comments. Esteban Ocon's next. I believe he's at the top end of decent. It's going to be very cool to see him and Gasly, who I'm going to rank as another decent driver. Both two drivers in Alpine, two French drivers in a French team. Pretty cool aspect. Will it work? I don't know. Ocon has stated himself that he wanted Mick as his primary teammate, maybe because he doesn't really want an an inter-nation conflict sort of thing. And maybe he thinks Mick is a little bit of a worse driver than Gasly, and thinks he could just be the automatic number one driver. Now that Alpine, even before Gasly, it was Alonso and Ocon, there was no real number one driver, and there definitely isn't going to be one now because they're all under the same nation. It's going to be cool to see Ocon and Gasly. I think they're going to really push each other for race wins here and there if the Alpine could continue to develop as we've seen it develop over the past couple of years. And yeah, I like this aspect in Formula 1. I think these two drivers are very good drivers on their day. Both of them race winners who definitely has that special something, but I don't think they showed on a consistent level. Ocon showed a lot of disrespect towards his teammate in a couple of races, Brazil coming to mind. And Gasly has quite, I feel like, decreased over the past year. So we'll see what happens in 2023, but I believe we'll see a drastic climb up the World Championship standings for both of them. Next, we got Logan Sargent, I'm pretty sure. I'm putting the same as Piastri. We don't really know that much about him in Formula 1, so I think a decent driver is what I could best say. I'm not going to rank Giovinazzi. Perez, this is a tough one. This is a real tough one. I think he's championship material, but I'm going to put him in special something. I don't know. It's hard. This one's really hard. I'm going to leave him in special something. When I look at the rest of the grid, Lando Norris, George Russell, Nick Latifi, and even though he's out of Formula One, he could definitely still win the Formula One World Championship. Okay, no, jokes aside. Norris, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, and Max at all put before Perez, so I don't really think there's much space for him to be in this conversation. But he's definitely got that special something, and I think if Max wasn't his teammate, we'd maybe see him push for the championship more. He did finish third in the world driver standings, and I feel maybe with some better luck and maybe with him not being so generous toward his teammate, he could push for the championship. He isn't the best car on the grid, is what we know. Will that car stay as the number one best car on the grid next season? I'm not too sure. Checo is a great driver who definitely has that special something. I wouldn't be mad with you guys saying he deserves to be on the championship material list, but for now, I'm going to put him on that special something list. Next, we got Nico Hülkenberg. Haven't seen him in Formula One consistently recently, so I'm going to put him as a decent driver. I think that's fair. Danny Rick signed a reserve role with Red Bull. On his day as a championship contender, has shown signs of an driver recently. I'm going to put him in the top of decent, but still has that special something, but also showed that he's an driver at times. But Danny Rick is a legend in my eyes. He's been very, very good for years. However, the last 2 years, he hasn't been good, as we all know. Race winner at Monza, however, we can't quite ignore that, but yeah. I'm hoping Danny Ricciardo finds a way back into Formula One because this guy is one of the most, charismatic and kind guys on the grid. And it's a shame to see him leave the grid of Formula One. We're all gonna miss him and his big smile. Hopefully we see him driving again soon. But Danny Ricciardo definitely is a special driver who has that special something, but hasn't shown it in the last couple of years, and has shown more of this side in the last couple of years. But I'm gonna put him here and be respectful. Alex Albon is definitely a decent driver and is on the verge of that special something. He is driving a Williams and has gotten that car into positions we wouldn't expect it to see. He's a very good driver, and I think he definitely has a long career here in Formula One. I believe this is Nick DeVries. I'm hoping it is. I don't know. Decent driver. Let's just pretend that's Nick DeVries. If it isn't, very decent driver. And I believe he has a very big future here in Formula One. Points on his debut with Williams, and now he's going to be driving alongside Yuki and AlphaTauri. I think he's going to be big competition for Yuki, who I believe it's very make or break for his season. I think Nick DeVries is going to be the better of the two, as he has more experience in race series like Formula One. Points on his debut speaks for itself in a Williams. So we'll see what happens with that. And finally, Carlos Sainz, I believe, is championship material. He showed it a lot last season, how good he is, outscoring Charles Leclerc in the middle 9 out of 10 races. He's a very good driver, and I believe, hopefully with some more luck going his way and some less silly mistakes in his racecraft, he will be a definitely more consistent driver pushing for the World Championship. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of these predictions. Do you guys agree or disagree? And if you disagree, let me know in the comment section down below. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care and peace, everybody.